13 Roads. Here is a tale I have not yet forgotten. Listen, tonight it is Edric Voss, who closed his hand around a dead man's rod at 11 years old and has not opened it since. He did not lose his hand. That is the first thing people ask when they hear. They imagine gangrene, necrosis, the fingers fused into a blackened club of meat. But his hand is fine, or something that looks like fine. The skin is healthy, the knuckles still move when he walks. The fingers simply will not part. And the rod between them, bone pale, carved with names in a script that shifts when you are not watching, is still receiving new names after 43 years. In script that Edric himself cannot read and has never, in 43 years, been able to write. The second thing people ask is whether he tried to have it cut off. The rod, they mean, not the hand. He tried. I will get to that. The third thing, the thing nobody asks because they are afraid of the answer, is whether the names are of the living or the dead. I have seen the rod. I have stood close enough to smell the thing, and it smells like stone after long rain, cold and mineral, and faintly sweet in a way that makes the back of your throat tighten. I looked at the names for as long as Edric would let me look, which was not long. I do not know the answer to the third question. I am not sure it is a question with only two possible answers. The dare happened on the Bone Road in late autumn, the year Edric was 11, in the company of 3 other boys from the village of Carn-Du. The village sat 3 miles from where the road surfaced. That is what the locals say, not that the road begins or that the road arrives, but that it surfaces, the way a submerged thing breaches water. And children in Carn-Du grew up with the road the way coastal children grow up with the sea. Familiar with it, respectful sometimes, stupid about it in the particular way that familiarity breeds. The boys had a name for the dare. They called it the touch and back. You walked to where the road surfaced from the tree line, you touched the roadstones, pale as chalk, seamed with something dark that is not moss and does not grow in winter. You turned around and you came back. That was all. Most children in Carn-Du had done it at least once by the time they were 10. Most of them touched the stone for half a second and ran, laughing, back to the trees. Touch and back was not a serious dare, but there were gradations. There were boys who had walked 10 steps onto the road, boys who had sat down on the road for a count of 30. One girl, Petra Crane, had supposedly slept on the road for an entire night on her own 13th birthday and come back carrying a tooth she said she'd found in the roadstones. A molar, no root, slightly too large to be human, which she kept in a pouch around her neck until she left Carn-Du for good at 18. No one knew where Petra Crane went. This is not Petra Crane's story. The dare the 4 boys set Edric was the next gradation past sleeping on the road. When a rider passed, if one passed, you did not move. You stood still and you let it pass you at close range. You did not run. You did not cover your eyes. You stood and you looked. Edric was the youngest of the 4. He was small for 11, with a patched elbow on his left coat sleeve and a chip in his left front tooth from a fall out of a pear tree at age 6. He had flat, calm brown eyes. I am telling you this because I have met him, and I want you to understand that this is not a boy who looked reckless. He looked, even in the description given to me by the one surviving member of that group of 4, a man named Aldous Fair, who is now 71 and who refused to look at a map of the road while we spoke. He looked like a boy who thought carefully before he agreed to things. Edric agreed to the dare. He walked out onto the road at mid-morning, under a flat, grey sky, with the other 3 boys watching from the tree line. He waited 4 hours. The rider came at mid-afternoon, when the light was already going gold and low between the trees. Edric heard it before he saw it. Not hoofbeats, nothing so legible as that, but a kind of pressure in the air, a tightening, the way the atmosphere shifts before a storm, but faster and colder. He said later, years later, to Aldous, who told me, that it felt like the road was paying attention, like the road knew something was about to happen on it and was pulling tight in anticipation. The rider was... I am going to describe this carefully, because the faceless riders are described differently by everyone who survives seeing one, and I want to give you Edric's description specifically, not a composite. Edric said it was tall, that it rode something that was the shape of a horse, the way a shadow on a wall is the shape of the thing casting it, present, correct in outline, but missing the information that makes an animal real. The eye roll, the breath plume in cold air, the sound of muscle shifting under hide. He said its robe was dark, not black, dark in the way that deep water is dark. You understand there is depth to it, not just a surface. He said where its face should have been, there was nothing. Not a void, not a skull, not anything dramatic, just an absence where attention went in and did not come back out. It was carrying something across its lap, a rod, pale as the roadstones, roughly the length of a forearm, covered in carved names so small and close together they looked like texture until you were near enough to see they were letters. Edric stood still. He had agreed to do that. He stood still as the rider came level with him, so close that the hem of the dark robe passed within arm's reach of his right side, and he looked directly at the faceless place where the face was not, and he did not run. What he should not have done, what no version of the dare included, what Aldous Fair says was not part of any agreement, what Edric himself says he cannot fully explain, was reach out and touch the rod. He says it was not impulsive. He says it felt like recognizing something, like reaching for a tool he had set down somewhere and finally found. His fingers closed around it. The rider did not stop. It did not slow. It did not acknowledge him in any way that Aldous, watching from the tree line, could see. It simply continued down the road, and when it had passed a certain distance, the rod was no longer on its lap. The rod was in Edric's hand, and Edric's hand had closed. He walked back to the tree line holding the rod. This is the part that still troubles me when I think about it, that he walked back. He did not panic. He did not shout. He came back to where the three boys were standing, and he held up his closed fist, and he said, "I can't let go of it." Aldous said there was no fear in his voice. He said it the way you would say, "I can't find my other boot." They spent the next hour trying. The three other boys pulled at Edric's fingers one by one, and the fingers flexed. You could move them, they were not rigid, but they would not open past a certain point, as if beyond that point there was simply no muscle to command. Edric tried himself. He tried pressing his fist against the roadstone and using the leverage. He tried dipping his hand in the stream that ran parallel to the road's edge, because someone had a theory about cold water and muscle cramps. Nothing. By dark they had walked the 3 miles back to Khan-Du, and Edric's mother had seen the rod, and the screaming had begun. I do not mean Edric's screaming, I mean his mother's. Edric was still quiet. The next years were what they were. I will not give you the full taxonomy of every intervention that was tried, because the list is long and nothing on it worked, and lingering on it feels like cruelty. I will tell you 3. A surgeon in the city of Vaughan came to Khan-Du when Edric was 13 and attempted to pry the fingers open under a sedative. He got them to 90% of open. He saw the rod clearly, he later wrote in a letter, the names carved on it, and the fact that the names nearest the center were older, deeper, worn almost to smoothness, while the names near the ends were fresh and sharp, and that as he held the hand open, straining to maintain the position, he saw a new name appear, not being carved, not incising itself dramatically into the surface, simply appearing, between 1 second and the next. The way words appear when you are reading and your eyes cross the line. They are there, You are certain they were always there, and yet a moment ago, they were not. The surgeon released Edric's hand. He left Khandu the same day. At 17, Edric himself took a chisel to the rod. He set the chisel against the join between his palm and the rod's surface and struck it with a hammer, intending to crack the rod itself. The chisel skated off without marking the rod. It did mark Edric's palm. He has a scar there, on the back of his closed hand, about 4 centimeters long. He showed it to me. He was not angry when he described that day. He was something I would call resigned. But resigned the way a man is resigned to weather, not bitterly, just accurately. At 30, a woman came to him. He was living in Vaughan by then, had been there 8 years, working as a ledger keeper because that work requires only one fully functional hand. A woman who said she traveled the Bone Road professionally, which is a thing some people claim and which I have no reason to dismiss. She looked at the rod for a long time. She touched the names with one fingertip, reading them in some way that was not reading with the eyes. She said, "These are not all dead. Some of them haven't happened yet." She would not clarify what "happened yet" meant with respect to a name. She told Edric that the rod was not stuck to him, that he was stuck to the rod, that there was a difference. She told him to stop trying to open his hand, that the effort was what was keeping it closed. Then she left. Edric tried to stop trying. He could not stop trying. This is the cruelest advice, I think. Be told the solution requires a thing you cannot do. When I met Edric Voss, he was 54 years old. He was living in a third-floor room above a cooperage in Vaughan, in a building that smelled of wood shavings and iron binding rings, and, faintly, from his room specifically, of that cold, mineral rain smell that I now know is the smell of the rod. He was a thin man, not unhealthy thin, just spare. He had a neat grey beard and the flat brown eyes I had been told about, and the chip in his tooth still, white and sharp. His left hand held a cup. His right hand held the rod, closed, slightly raised, the way a man holds a candle he's forgotten he's carrying. We talked for 3 hours. He asked me not to look at the rod while we talked, and I agreed to that, and I kept my agreement mostly. I will tell you what I saw in the moments I did look. The rod is the length of a forearm. It is the color of old ivory, not white, not fresh bone white, but the yellow white of something that has been handled for a very long time. The names cover approximately 3/4 of its surface. They are in at least 4 scripts, possibly more, and they do not repeat. Each name is distinct, though some are so small they would require a glass to read. Edric's name is not on it. He has checked. He checks, he told me, about once a year, methodically, going name by name until his eyes water. Near the end of our time together, I broke my agreement. I looked directly at the rod while Edric was looking away, out the window at the street below. A cart had tipped, someone was shouting. He had turned instinctively to see. I looked at the rod for approximately 4 seconds. I saw a name appear, the way the surgeon described, the way a line of text appears when your eye crosses it. There, and certain, and impossible to mark the exact moment of its arrival. I do not know whose name it was. I could not read the script, but I know the way you know a thing you cannot prove, that it was not the name of someone already gone. The ink of it, if ink is the right word, was too fresh, too present. It had the quality of something that has just become true. I asked Edric toward the end what the worst part was. Not the hand, I knew it wasn't the hand. He had adapted to the hand, the worst part. He said, the canting. He knows he's been holding the rod for 43 years. He knows there are more names on it now than when he took it. He cannot help calculating, in idle moments, on nights when he cannot sleep, on long ledger days when his eyes are tired and his mind wanders, how many names have appeared since he picked it up. He has a rough count. He does not want to know what the count means. He cannot stop knowing it. I did not ask him the count. I think that was right. Before I left, he did one thing I was not expecting. He held the rod out toward me. The first time, he said, he'd offered it to anyone in 30 years. Not to give, just to show. He held it out and he turned it slowly, with the fingers that cannot unclose, so I could see the full surface in the window light. Every name, every script, the worn, smooth, oldest ones near the center, and the fresh, sharp, newest ones near the ends, and in the space between, names I was almost certain I recognized. Not names I could put to faces, just the shape of names I'd seen before, on markers, on records, on the lips of people who had walked roads that I have also walked. I walked down his 3 flights of stairs and out into the street, and I stood in the smell of wood shavings and iron and the departing mineral cold, and I thought, he has been keeping this for 43 years, for whatever it is for, and he was 11 when it chose him. I have walked the Bone Road 14 times. I have seen riders twice, at distance both times, neither time carrying anything I could see clearly. I do not know if the rod Edric holds is the same rod I could not see, or a different one, or whether riders carry many rods, or one, or none at all on most crossings. I do not know what happens when the rod is full, if it can be full. I do not know what happens when Edric dies. I am not sure Edric knows either. I am not sure Edric lets himself think about it. What I know is that somewhere in Vaughan, in a 3rd-floor room above a cooperage, a man with flat brown eyes and a chipped tooth is sitting at a ledger by lamplight with his right fist slightly raised. And names are arriving in that fist, in script no human wrote. And he is counting them in spite of himself, and the count means something, and he is the only person in the world who is close enough to the rod to read it clearly, and he cannot read the script. There is another traveler I need to find. She walked the road I will tell you about next, and came back carrying nothing visible. The nothing she carried is the thing that worries me. I will not be at rest until I understand what she left there instead.